Hi, everyone. So today we're going to actually be talking about proportions. And I just want to kind of define what a proportion is. You may have already learned about proportions in previous classes, but a proportion is an equation. So that's important. We want to make sure we understand the difference between an expression and an equation. So an equation is going to have an equal sign in it, whereas an expression is just going to be a set of numbers or variables. All right, so a proportion is an equation that states two ratios are equal. So I do want to just remind you about a ratio. So let's look at ratios. So a ratio is really just a comparison between two things. So here's some examples. You have three triangles and two squares. So we can write that as a ratio. We can compare them as 3 to 2, or we could write it as 3 to 2. Or we actually can write it as a fraction, 3 to 2. And when I write it as a fraction, you just want to make sure you recognize that this would be the triangle part, and this would be the square part. Now, there's other ratios I could write here. I could say how many triangles to all of the figures there. But this is basically what a ratio is. All right, so today we're going to talk about proportions, though. And so to check, first I want to know, how do I know if two ratios are equal each other? So one way to do that is to check what we call their cross products. Well, cross means like crisscross, and products means multiply. Remember, that's the word that means multiply. So here's what I mean. So do A and B, so A over B, that's a ratio, and C over D form a proportion. So all you'd have to do would be to multiply their cross products, meaning I'd have to multiply A times D, and I'd have to multiply B times C. And if they are indeed equal means is the same as, then yes, they form a proportion. So let's try this out. Do the following ratios form a proportion? Okay, so the first thing I would do, I would cross products. I would cross multiply the numbers. So I'm going to multiply 5 times 24, and I'm going to multiply 6 times 20. Okay, well, 6 times 20 is an easier one for me, so I'm going to do that first, because all I have to do is do 6 times 2 and get 12, and because there's 1 0, I'll use that trick. That it would be 120. Okay, so 5 times 24, I'm going to do an algorithm. So I'm going to do 24 times 5 off to the side. So 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 2 is 120. Okay, so that's how I did this math. 120 does equal 120. So yes, these two ratios form a proportion. All right, let's try another one. 2/3 and 8 over 15. So I'm going to try the cross products. 2 times 15, I'm going to use the multiplication symbol as the times, and then 3 times 8, okay? So again, that symbol's the same. That and the dot mean the same thing. So I've got 2 times 15, which is 30, and then 3 times 8, which is one of my math facts, which is 24. They do not equal each other, so I'm going to use a do not equal, so they do not form a proportion. Do not form a proportion. Okay. Now, we also want to learn some other things about proportions. So we can use this idea of cross products to solve equations with proportions. It isn't the only way to do it. I'm going to imagine that when you learned about ratios and proportions, maybe like I gave you 3/4 equals x over 8, your teacher taught you the method of just to use equal ratios and multiplication to kind of think it through. Meaning, what number do you multiply 4 by to get 8? Well, that would be 2. So you'd have to multiply the same to the top to find x. So 3 times 2 would give me 6. So this is what I call writing them as equal ratios. But when the numbers get bigger, that isn't always easy to do. So we want to use cross products. All right. But one big thing about cross products is that when the numbers are bigger, it can make the multiplication a little bit tougher. So the first thing that you want to do if you're going to use the cross products is you are going to want to simplify the left or the right. Not across, but left or right. So I see 16 over 12, and I'm going to first try to simplify that. Meaning, is there anything can I reduce it? Well, I see they're both factors of 4. So I'm going to divide 16 by 4, and that would give me 4. And I'm going to divide 12 by 4, which would give me 3. Okay? Okay, so now if I use the cross products, now I can kind of see that the answer is going to be 4, but I'm going to use the cross products here. So I'm going to do cross products. So I'm going to do 4 times 3 equals 3 times x. So 4 times 3 is 12, and I get 3x. So 12 equals 3x. Then I'm going to divide both sides. I'm going to use the inverse operation for x. 3 is being multiplied to x, so I'm going to divide both sides by 3, giving me that x equals 4. And I'm going to box my answer. So again, I always try and reduce if you can. You can't always simplify, but it will make it easier if you simplify before you try the cross products. Let's try another example. 7 over 8 equals 21 over k. Well, I can't simplify 7 over 8, so I'm going to have to just cross products. So that would give me 7k. Again, I'm going to cross products, cross multiply. 7k equals 8 times 21. All right, I'm going to do the multiplication a couple of different ways here. I could do 21 times 8 and use the algorithm. 1 times 8 is 8, and 8 times 2 is 16 and get 168. Or I could do 8 times 20 and 8 times 1 and add them. So 8 times 20 is 160, 8 times 1 is 8, and add them together and it'll give you 168. So 2 ways to multiply those numbers. So now I have 7k equals 168. All right, now I have to solve for k. So 7 is being multiplied to k, so I need to do its inverse operation. So I'm going to divide both sides by 7. All right, so k is going to equal. Now I have to go off to the side and I have to do the division. So that means 7 goes into 168 how many times? All right, so the standard algorithm here is 7 goes into 16 2 times. So then I multiply 2 times 7, giving me 14. Then I subtract 16 and 14, and I get 2. I bring down the 8, and 7 goes into 28 4 times. So 7 times 24 gives me 168, and 168 divided by 7 gives me 24. All right, let's try another one. 26 over W equals 5 over 6. So I'd like you to try it. So press pause on the video, you try it, and then let's come back. Okay, so the first thing I tried to do, could I simplify 5 over 6? I couldn't, so then I'm going to use the cross products. So 26 times 6 equals 5 times W, so I'm just going to write that as 5W. All right, I'm going to do the 26 times 6. Which gives me 156. All right, so now I have to divide. So I'm going to divide 5 into 156. And 5 goes into 15. I know 3 times, so 3 times 5 is 15. I get 0. I have to bring down the 6. 5 goes into 6 one time. I subtract, and I get 1. Now you can do this 2 ways. I could write this as 31 and 1/5, or I'm going to actually keep going. So let me do that again. I'm going to add a 0, so I'm going to use a decimal. I'm going to add a 0. I'm going to bring down the 0. Remember, when I add that 0, I have to put a decimal. So I had 31 point, and 5 goes into 10 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10, I get a remainder 0, so my answer would be 31.2. So when I divided both sides by 5, I got that W equaled 31.2 or 31 1/5. So those are two options for my answers. One thing I want to point out, and it's actually really important for you to know, that the decimal 0.2 is equal to the fraction 1/5. So those are some really important fractions to know as decimals. All right, let's try one more, okay? I'd like you to try. Now remember, if you can simplify, simplify, because it will make it easier. So press pause. All right, so you tried it, and I did see that I could simplify. 7 goes into 14 2 times, and 7 goes into 63 9 times. So I did divide both numbers by 7. So it made it a nice, easy cross products. Again, I don't want to multiply 9 times 14 if I don't have to. So, and again, I can see now that the answer is 2, because then they would be equal ratios, but I am going to do the cross product. So 9a equals 18, because I want you to get practice at that. And you might not have seen it. And then I'm going to divide by 9, and that's going to give me a equals 2. Okay. All right, so let's make it a little spicier. Let's make it, what if we throw in decimals, right? If we throw in decimals, you can do this. I know you can. So again, I'm going to see if I can simplify 4 over 11, which I can't. So now I'm going to do the cross product. So I'm going to do 1.2 times 11 and then 4 times m. Okay, I'm going to go off to the side and I'm going to do 11 times 1.2. Now, so that's going to give me, I'm going to multiply 2 times 11, which gives me 22. I'm going to add the 0. I'm going to do 1 times 1, which is 1, and then 1 times 1 again, which is 1, 2, 3. So I get 132. But I have a decimal here. I had one decimal place that I multiplied, so I have to start here and I have to move one decimal place, so I get 13.2. Sorry about that background noise today. I'm outside. I thought it'd be nice to do this outside today. All right, now I divide both sides by 4. Oh gosh, Coach Fred, now I got to do division with decimals. Great practice here. So 4 into 13.2. Now, the way I do this is I just always move my decimal point up right away. All right, 4 goes into 13. How many times? 3 times. I get 12. I subtract. And then I bring down the 2. And I get 12. 4 goes into 12 3 times. So my answer would be 3.3. So see, you can do it with decimals. It's just a dot. Don't ever let it throw you. All right. What about if I make it a little harder? If I throw in a variable to my proportion that has a coefficient. So a coefficient's just a number in front of a variable. And you can see it here. The coefficient 4 is in front of x. So I still do the cross products. I'm going to do 4x times 15 and then 84 times 5. Okay? Now, I didn't actually check to see if I could simplify 84 times 5, or 84 over 15. So actually, I am going to go back and do that. So 8 plus 4 is 12. So 8 plus 4 is 12. And 1 plus 5 is 6. I knew that 2 didn't go into them, so I was checking 3. And because the sum of the digits, 12 goes in, 3 goes into it, then 3, they're divisible by 3. So I'm going to divide them both by 3. So if I divide 3 into 84, I get 28. And 3 into 5, 5. So that does make it easier for me to work with. Okay, so I'm going to cross products now. So I've got 4x times 5 equals 28 times 5. So that's going to give me 20x equals 28 times 5. So I'm going to do this the way that I showed you a little bit earlier, 28 times 5. I'm going to do 20 times 5, and I'm going to do 8 times 5, and then add them together. I love thinking about math and multiplying in different ways. So 20 times 5 is one that makes it easy for us because I do 5 times 2, which is 10, and just add 1 0. 8 times 5 is one of our math facts that we really want to know, which is 40. So I can do that by adding them together. So 140. So that's going to give me 140. All right, now I love this problem actually because I love all the zeros because I can use some of my practice skills here. So I'm going to divide both sides by 20. Again, I'm using the inverse operation. 20 is being multiplied to the x. So to solve for x and get rid of that 20, you have to do the inverse. The inverse of multiplication is division. So I'm going to simplify the 20s and I get x equals. Well, what I love about this, the right side, is that I have a 0 over a 0. And remember, you can cancel one of those zeros. So I'm just doing 14 divided by 2, which is 7. And again, remember, because this is an equation, you can actually always check yourself by plugging in the 7 into the original equation to see if you get the right answer, to see if the left and the right are equal, because equals just means is the same as. All right. Now, for those of you that want that challenge, I'd like you to try this. So I think all of you can do it, but I would say I want everybody to give this a try. So press pause, try it, and then I'm going to come back and do it for you, okay? All right, so hopefully you tried it and you saw that you couldn't simplify 2 over 3, and so you did the cross product. So that would be 2 times 12 equals. Now, here's the hard part. When you multiply 3 to an expression that has addition and subtraction in it, you do want to put that expression, the one in the top, in parentheses. Because I need to multiply that 3 to both parts of the expression, and the parentheses will help me see that I need to use the distributive property. So 2 times 12 is 24, and then 3 I have to multiply to the x and to the negative 2. So that's going to give me 3x minus 6. All right, so now I have to use my big on algebra skills here. So to solve for x, I have to do kind of like the backwards. I have to get the 6 to the other side first. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides. So 24 plus 6 gives me 30. So now I have the equation 30 equals 3x. All right, so now I have to undo the x. So 3 is being multiplied to the x. So what do I need to do? I need to divide both sides by 3. And so x equals 10. All right, so hopefully that was a helpful video to review a little bit about proportions and using the cross products to solve a proportion. Have a great day.